Welcome to the Late Night with Chalky podcast.
But I was like, because we listen to podcasts all the time, and I'm like, Lar, I go, we got to start our own podcast. I go, it's perfect because your nickname's Late Night and my nickname's Chalky. We can do the Late Night with Chalky podcast. It's meant to be. And he's like,
such a salesman.
I'm like, what do we talk about? I go, fucking surfing, of course. I go, and we want to promote our industry, right?
But I was a little skeptical because I'm like the surf podcast I listen to. I'm like, well, what are we going to do different? I don't know. What are we going to talk? Let's figure this out. And and then that's where he came up like, well, let's talk about retail and let's talk about business owners and let's because that's our livelihood and that's our industry's backbone.
And honestly, it's not about numbers. It's about how they got into it, right?
Yeah.
And kind of
how what they get back and how they're still.
Yeah. We promote how, you worked at HSS. We worked at HSS. They've been around since 1978. He fucking borrowed 60 grand from his dad, and since 1978, how many people have been employed by Huntington Surfing Sport? Jacks, they employ 300 and something people a year.
Hobie, Val Surf. Val just celebrated their 60 year.
Yeah.
60 years.
Hobie too, right? Like 75, didn't they? It's pretty recently.
Yeah, and ET is 50 this year.
Yeah.
So it's like all these things that people forget, instead of going to Amazon, instead of going direct to consumer, support your local surf shop.
Yeah.
But the journey of those people, the business owners, right? Like, people love it.
Yeah.
Like, why did they start those businesses? Because it's their passion, it's what they're into, and they can make money on it, and that's what they're, how do I make money?
Business with pleasure.
Yeah. How do I make money? And
Chris Grow is the one that kind of teed up gave us our, not ideas, but told us how to start. Microphone, garage, how to start a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And he had told John Moore, my old boss, right? He's like, dude, I'll let Lyndon, I'm gonna tell Lyndon how to do it. He goes, but you should tell him that he'll probably quit because it's hard, it'll take a long time to get going. He'll probably give up, right?
Yeah.
So we were just having that. He didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
John never told me. And then we start doing it. We're having fun. We're starting to gain momentum. We interview McKnight. And this is like a year or two later. Chris hits me up. You know who Chris Grove is, right?
I don't know. I'm not
He's
sure.
Firewire Marketing.
Okay.
Shred Shows is the handle. So he hits me up and he's like, dude, give me a call. So I call him. I'm like, what's up, dude? And he's like, hey, you're the best thing in surfing right now. I go, what? He's like, Late Night with Chalky is the best thing in surfing right now. I go, fuck off.
You tell him it's all.
He's like, no,
it's all
my
my partner.
sunshine up your ass. He goes, but seriously, like the combination of you two being so authentic and genuinely like having relationships with the people that you interview, you're getting stuff that people would never hear.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's like,
these guys have known you for long enough. Too.
Yeah.
They want to feel comfortable.
It's easy, right? But he's like, because Jay rode for Quicksilver, because McKnight almost beat me up because I was smashing bottles in the parking lot of Quicksilver.
Just small little snippets to break the ice. And
he's like, he interned for Quicksilver for 2.5 years. He goes, I never heard any of that stuff. And I was a big fan of Bob. I'm a big fan of Quicksilver. He goes, but to get what you guys are getting out of people, it's fucking gold. I'm like, wow, thank you. Yeah. And then I told John Moore that. He goes, dude, he was telling me for you not to do it. I was like, really? He goes, but in a nice way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm stoked.
But it is. These things seem like it all sounds pretty simple. You're like, oh, I got a computer, I can get a mic and start doing it. But then it's like, to be consistent.
Yeah.
And the consistency part is hard.
Dude.
And scheduling is the hard part.
Yeah,
that's the only hard part to it.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, for sure. But to tell people stories, it's not highlighting us, it's highlighting our guests.
Yeah.
Where most people aren't getting, they're not going to brag about themselves or be interviewed. You're not most of the people aren't celebrity. When you hear a podcast, it's like somebody's super famous and they just want to get your take on something or ask you about your movie or whatever you're into, And this is just more about, like Lyndon said, it's surfing's the foundation, and it's about your, surfing life, and
Yeah.
where you started and where you're at.
Yeah.
You know?
We ask everybody the same questions.
Yeah.
But every person's different.
For
So
sure.
the story's always different.
But it's a good part of like history too, and it's inspiring to others and stuff. Because if I always bring up like little kids or teenagers, not little kids, but like somebody. It's like, well, our goal is to be a professional surfer, like to get paid. Like that's everybody's aspiration when you're like a young buck. And I hope we kind of get that audience, because it's like, man, you know what? Like there's so much other opportunities in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could still have that love and passion and travel and everything without like the sponsor headaches and contest headaches and stuff.
I feel like that was a big like light bulb that went off in my head.
And we're going to talk about that.
When I was like in my early 20s, where I went, dang, I could make a couple bucks at this surfing thing and like live at my parents for a long time. Or I could just try and get a job in the industry and like make money and still be doing what I'd love to do.
And again, it's whether you're starting a company, whether you work from like the ground floor up, or there's a ton of different ways
ready?
too.
Tell me when we're rolling.